black. You could use any color that you like. Black just really makes the colors pop. You just want to make sure that your base coat is good and dry before you move on to your guidelines. Now I'm just going to use a roller and a soapstone stick here. And I just put the ruler down, and you don't have to have it perfect or anything, so just draw your first guideline and then crisscross it, and then each slice is going to just get a line, you know, another guideline down the middle of it. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfectly down the middle of each slice, but you do want to kind of be careful about your lines overlapping. So make sure that you center up your ruler with the center. You find the center pretty quickly because it's the brightest point there. When you're drawing on so many guidelines, it makes it easy. So just try not to overlap your lines, but you do want a lot of guidelines. Now for today's paint, I'm using DecoArt Americana acrylic paint. You can use any paint that you have available. I just love DecoArt paints. They're perfect for dot art. And actually this particular paint set is my paint set with DecoArt. It's called Tropic Vibes, and you can find that at decoart.com. I'm going to put the links for all these products in this video's description below, so if you're looking, just look no further, you'll find them right down there. Now it's basically 3 or 4 layers of this pattern that we're gonna do. We're gonna repeat it, so you'll get the gist of it. It's not that complicated. It does look a little complicated, but you're gonna do great. So you do want a very fine point tool for this, at least for the very small dots in the center. And what you do is you want to make sure you give yourself a little bit of room out from the center, and you place a dot, and then you dot on one of so pick a guideline, you place a dot, I don't know, maybe about a 1/4 inch away from the center, and then you dot down towards the center on a guideline, and then you redip your tool, redot that first initial dot, and dot up the guideline the opposite direction. You can count your dots if you want. That does seem to help, maybe 5 dots or so in each direction. So you've got a fatter dot, and then they taper down on each end. So you just want to make sure you give yourself enough space back away from that center. They don't have to be perfectly symmetrical across from each other. I was just kind of showing you can eyeball it, and that'll get you going good as far as picking your colors. So I started with yellow, and I just made like 6, I just eyeballed it, 6 guidelines, you know, or 6 little slices, and then I went in with a different color and kind of like just mimicked where those were. So right next to the yellow, I would put red on each one of those. And so on and so forth. So I've got pink, blue, I've got a light teal. Ignore the darker teal, I didn't wind up using it. It's called mermaid teal. I didn't use that one, but I did use all the other ones, and they're all named. So you'll see those if you want to do this exact same color scheme, but you can pick any colors you want. It's just like any other dot art project that I teach. You can pick any colors that you like. It's a personal thing, so go with what you like. So now I'm just going to show you this little tip here. I went to use my yellow paint, and I noticed that it was starting to form a skin. So what I like to do to help my paints not dry out is I spritz them, and it works great. And then you can just mix up your paint, and it really, really makes it go back to pretty much a perfect consistency. So little tip for you there. Now I'm using a bigger tool, so I wanted to see how far of a distance I need to give myself away from the end of the other tail. So it's about 1 inch. So I'm going to go 1 inch up from the first row of little dots there, and I'm going to dot down towards the center. Now immediately I realized that I didn't want to jump that quickly, that high of a larger dot. So I'm just going to remove it. So you can just always easily remove your mistakes. Don't freak out. It's totally fixable. Like, just lightly dampen a cotton swab, and then just twirl the paint up and away from your canvas and let it dry, and then start over. So I didn't have that big of a jump. So I call this a number 2. And then I'm just going to pick a line. I'm not putting the yellow out with the yellow. I'm putting it out with just a completely different color. I'm actually just going to go right in between where the yellows were. And that's kind of how I do it the whole tutorial. So you'll see that as it unfolds. But so the same type of deal. You want to see how far out you need to go from your previous little section of dots. And it was about, I think, a half of an inch. You use your own tools and you'll see how far you need to go. Just do it off on the side until they run out of dots, and then you'll see how far you need to give yourself some room. But yeah, I mean, it does look more complicated when you look at the whole project, as with everything, but it's not that bad. It's totally doable. You're going to do a great job. This thing is so cool. What I actually did when I finished this, I was like, this would look really, really cool in like a blue gradient, like either from light to dark or from dark to light even would be cool. So I was going to do another one, but I stuck with this one because I always love rainbow. But yeah, I'm going in between each of the previous colors where I had spaced them out, and I'm going to put, you know, like if there's an orange on one side and orange on the other, I go right in the middle and put the orange row. So I'm kind of staggering them. It really starts to fill out pretty quick. And right about here, I realized I was forgetting one key thing, and it was white paint. I just have to have white paint. I don't know why. I just always have to add some kind of white somewhere. It gives a place for the eye to rest. What is one color that you just must incorporate into your pieces? Leave me a comment in the comment section below and let me know. Mine is definitely going to be white. But you'll see here I'm just going right down to the very, very small ones. That's any space that is open down there. You really do want to fill it in. And you can learn from my mistakes. I'll name them off at the end and tell you what I would do differently. So stay till the end for that. But you can just see here how adding white, it just transforms the piece. It does, at least in my opinion. So I notice a smudge. I mean, who doesn't smudge their paint, right? All right, so I'm going to just clean it up using these very fine tip paint brushes. And I'm just going to go over the part that's really, really smeared. Oh, I just want to talk about these real quick. Here are a few new products in my shop. These are our new oval tools. Now they used to be tips with handles, and now they're all one piece. So it's the same tools, just with one piece. And these are our new super fun petal tools. I love them. They're like a little teardrop. And then these are going to be our new regular round dotting tools. They're pink, and they're not yet released, but they're coming soon. So we got pink, purple, and blue tools now. And I absolutely love them. I'm so proud of them. And back to the mess up. So I'm just cleaning off, just painting over the really, really bad smeared part. And then I'm just going to re-dot over top of the dots. And it honestly looks just as good as new. So again, I just want to show you a mess up because it happens to all of us. So here's how it's going so far. You can see any of these spaces that are a little bit bigger. I felt the need to fill those in, like that one I'll just pull on out. But any of those spaces I really wanted to fill in. So I just got out my ruler, and I didn't even draw the lines straight across because it didn't necessarily work that way. So I just filled in each little slice, and I just kind of cut them right in half and, drew a line wherever I felt like it was too big of a gap at the center. That was my goal, was to fill in that center, because as they go outwards, they expand, so they're a lot further apart, so it's not going to matter as much. But in the center, I really wanted it very full. So I'm going back in with my teeny tiny tool, and this was my process. This is how I went about it. You can learn from my mistake and start the way that I'm showing you now, and really packing it in the center to begin with, or you can do it the way I'm doing it and go back in and fill in where you feel the need to fill in. And that might be a good way to go. So here I'm using that same fine toothbrush. I swear I can't even. It's been a long day. I'm going back in with that really fine paintbrush and just removing one guideline that was a little bit overlapping the other one. And I just moved it over a little bit to get it more centered. and it worked out pretty good. So here we go, just kind of filling in those spaces. All right, so this is it, and this is how it's looking. It's really full in the center, and that's what I was going for. So now I'm looking for the longest lines, right? So these are the lines that I probably just added. And I'm going to go ahead and dot them with that, you know, number 2 stylus, so a little bit bigger than those center dots. And we're just going to, this is the process. You're going to keep going. You go around and around, and you find any of the long lines and you fill those in. Okay, then you've got like, it's almost like a second whole ring of this little double tail. All right, and now we're going in with the larger nail stylus. Now I call this a number 5. It's the largest nail stylus that I have. And I'm kind of going in between, so you can see where the 2 blue lines are previously. I'm going in between those. Again, that's only if you're following along with, you know, somewhat with my color scheme. But if you're doing your own thing, yeah, just stick them randomly. You know, I think I spread them out like 6 little arms or something like that, and then just go next to them with, you know, but it creates a ring basically. So there's like the center ring, and then there's the second ring out, and then this is like the third ring out. And so you just keep looking for the lines that don't have any, you know, the next row of dots on there, and just fill those in as you go. And then for the last row that I was going to add, I did use the smallest rod that I have, and then I followed up next to it with the largest stylus. And I just go in and out on the ends there. So what I wanted to touch on here, as far as like what I would do differently, I think that I would stop on the ones that are shorter and like closer, and I wouldn't go all the way to the edge. Probably with the spokes. It doesn't look bad. It looks pretty still. But I think I would probably have stopped and maybe not filled those in so much. But, you know, it's a personal preference, and you can do it however you want. You could also stagger and do little smaller ones in between the spokes. You could do that. I didn't. So it's just whatever you like, but you do want to remove your guidelines, and then you can add a varnish or a resin would be pretty. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with anyone who is wanting to try this design. Thanks so much. See you next time. Bye now.